I should probably just thank you all for coming firstly, and then just mention our sponsors, who are the Nominate Trust and Cambridge University Press, who are funding this initiative, which is an initiative to build digital content capacity amongst educators worldwide. I'd also like to remind you that the first two sessions are up online, in case you happen to miss them. They're in the free resources section of our website, www.forceinitiative.com. So as the presentation should go, the same as the last two, I'll have to mute everyone as they enter just to avoid interference. We'll have about a 30-minute presentation, and then there'll be time for Q&A, which we'll do through the chat function, which is on the right-hand side of your screen. So if you have any questions during the presentation, just type them in there and we'll get to them at the end. And now we'll go through as many as you have time for. So today's topic is open source software for education, and we're lucky enough to have Mel McIntyre here to talk to us today. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Mel for taking the time to contribute to this initiative. I'll just give you a brief intro to Mel, and then he can take over and pass on as he sees fit. So since 2002, Mel has been the managing director of OpenApp. OpenApp are working in the area of information management, supporting open source software-based systems and applications. They are one of the leaders in software sharing, developer collaboration, the elimination of vendor lock-in, and adherence to open standards. Prior to this, Mel held several positions, including management consultant in DMR Consulting, operations director for Rise Technology, and director of quality for the Amdal Corporation. So without further ado, I think I'll pass you on to Mel, and he'll take you through open source software for education. Okay, thanks, Mel.
Okay, can I just check my mic? Is voice okay?
Yes, it's perfect, Mel. Yeah, everyone else is muted, but they should be able to hear you perfectly, yeah.
You can hear me okay. Okay, so thanks for coming along, lads. Open source software in education. It's probably it's going to be a long journey before I think open source software is a very significant player in education. It's been a long journey for it to get to where it is today, which in the business and government sector, probably further in the government sector, I suppose, than the business sector. So I hope I have something useful to share, and like Neil says, I'll try and answer questions if I can. I just threw up the first slide there, open source software. Typically I call it OSS, people call it FOSS. A lot of people like to call it FLOSS because I guess there's a lot of French influence on the Libre, and the Libre as in freedom kind of thinking, and there's a lot of underlying thinking around this, I suppose, as a movement. So I typically use OSS. The key message of what I'm trying to get across here is that I think open source software can be a significant contributor to this agenda of digital content capacity, to try and increase digital content capacity in education in other sectors as well. I think open source software can be a significant contributor. I said there are potential benefits and there are barriers, and just on the potential benefits, I say potential because benefit depends on what problem you're trying to solve. There are these are probably 40, 50, 60 different benefits that people like to this. So I've just put a few ideas down here. First, I suppose, with that open source software and open commons, there's things going hand in hand here as there's a general move around the world towards openness and not locking intellectual property away in software and restricting access through license. Kind of goes hand in hand with a lot of other open movements. I guess that's one of the benefits. Second benefit, and we can't overlook it, is no license costs. And I've been presenting this for years to people, and a lot of different organisations, especially government departments, like to remind me, well, it's not all about cost. Well, you may be sure it's all about cost if you don't have money. And it is a very significant benefit. Another one, reduced license administration. I think Neil mentioned I work for DMR Consulting. I remember in there we had one of our IT guys was full-time on license administration. Quite a significant issue in organisations. When I see schools trying to buy upgrades to software licenses, just apart from the money, just the nuisance factor of trying to figure out what you need to do. You don't have to do this sort of stuff with open source. And from an education perspective, maybe infrastructure is a significant thing. Your servers, your email, firewalls, content management, your overall desktop platforms, I'd maybe call infrastructure. Administration, I think a lot of people are starting to be aware of Moodle, maybe not a lot of people here on this call are using Moodle. Another very significant one I came across just while I was researching for this project is a thing called Centre SIS, the Student Information System, that seems to have a few hundred deployments. Quite big in America, but maybe a dozen deployments around Europe. It looks like a very significant project, so I'm actually going to go back and take a serious look at that. Another one that I like, because my own company, we work in the Zope Python space, is a project called School Tool, which is more like calendaring, scheduling, and a very good place on which to build calendaring or scheduling type applications. In the application space, there are hundreds. OpenOffice, I suppose, is the one probably best known, probably starting to find its way out there. Still, I would say, quite slowly. We put a significant investment in about 5 years ago in doing the ECDL training materials for OpenOffice with the BlackRock Education Centre. We've had no commercial success with it at all. So I'd say this is it's very much a slow burn. It's moving and moving forward all the time, slowly. Other things like gcompree is a primary schools applications, something like QCAD, CAD, Scribus instead of Microsoft Publisher, that type of thing. System software space, very significant area for people who are implementing directories. OpenLDAP is the obvious choice. Stats, AWS Stats, or Nagios for monitoring your service, or OSEC for monitoring for security alerts. Again, dozens of things in those spaces. So just a few examples of what you might say, what is open source software. How does it work for people who think, well, how can people write software and give it away for nothing? A number I'm plucking out of the air, I picked it up in some research maybe a couple of years ago, is that maybe 70% of software that's written, and maybe it may even be higher, isn't written by traditional software vendor companies. It's not written by people who are in the business of developing and selling software. It's more written in government or public sector organizations, not for software written in universities, written in PhD projects. And the best thing to do with that, you can either put it in your PhD report and, tie a ribbon on it and leave it there forever, or put it out in the community, and if it's of use, other people will pick it up moving forward. And that's happened quite a lot of the better projects. Say community projects, we work with a project called Flow and Gov, where a lot of local authority organizations around Europe collaborate in building different components. If you take something like local authorities, they all do very similar things. They run libraries, they manage planning, they manage water, they manage housing, and rent collection, that type of stuff. The Google Summer Code is probably one of the more significant recent developments. And if you've got students out there, young kids who like tinkering with stuff, getting on the Google Summer Code project is a fantastic thing to do. They get paid to do it, and you'll find a mentor in the project, whether it's OpenOffice or Clone or GIMP or any one of the hundreds of thousands of projects out there. It's a super initiative by Google. I'd say capable individuals, lots of people, Linus Torvald being the kind of poster child of capable individuals who develop something and put it out there in the world. And because of this, there are new business models. I said business models centered around service and support. So my own company, our business model is centered on service and support. So we don't sell license to intellectual property. And an awful lot of business is service business. So we're not doing anything hugely different. So that would be, I guess, a pitch at how this thing works. We